Why should you use arrays? Now imagine you had a box of fruits. A box of anything really. Collection of items. Well, here they're nicely organized, but imagine if these items were all over the place. This would feel very unorganized. In this mess, it would be very hard to find the things you were looking for. That's why we use collections. Now, imagine your code looked like this, unorganized. But imagine as well if there was a way that you could organize your code to make it structured. So you knew where everything was at. Which place it had an index, it had a number, a way to find this specific item. Well, that's how you use collections.
Wouldn't it be cool if you could make a list of your favorite movies of all time?
The greatest movies of all time!
Nah, but for real though. Collections are a really important part of C#. Today we're gonna learn about the first type of collection called an array. Let's go. First we have to tell the computer which type of array we want to make. So we have to tell it the data type. Let's for instance create a string array. So we'll type string. And we're going to follow this up with square brackets. Now the computer knows that we're trying to create an array. Next up we have to name an array. Let's call it names. I want to create a list of names, that's why I'm calling my array names. Then put an equal sign and now you're going to put curly braces. And here inside the curly braces is where we'll put in the data that goes into our array. So the data that's going into our array is the type string, so we have to put quotation marks. Let's put a name here, for instance, Alice. That's the first entry in our array. Now we have to separate these entries by a comma. So move outside the quotation marks, put a comma, and then another set of quotation marks to make the second entry. I'll just put some names in quick. So now we've got 3 entries in our array, Alice, John and Bob. And as you can see, I finished it off with a semicolon outside the curly braces. So now we got our first array made up of strings. Now let's try to make the console write our array. It would make sense to do it like this with a classic console.writeLine. Just type in console.writeLine and then the name of our array. But as you can see, if we run this, it just says system.string.
Well, right now we're actually just asking it to print out the type of array we're creating. So a string array. What we really need to do is trying to access a specific element of the array. The way we do this is that we still use the names, the name of our array, and then we need a specific index, so they're numbered. So it would make sense to do it like this to access Alice, because she's the first entry of the list. Well, it accesses John. That's a bit weird, because we first have Alice, then John, then Bob. So Alice should be 1. The thing about arrays and collections in general in C# is that they are 0 indexed. This means that place 0 is actually Alice, the 1 is John, then the second is Bob, so it's actually 0, 1, 2 instead of 1, 2, 3. So if we type 0 here, as you can see, Alice. So if we wanted to print out each element of our array, we could do it like this. Console.writeLine, the names 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, sorry, in index. But let's say we add another name later on in our code. Let's say Frank. Now this is not very flexible, because if we wanted to change the code later on, we would have to change it to 2 places instead of just 1. So what we could do is use loops instead, and I'm going to show you how these work.
We'll type for each in one word, like this, and then you'll press the tab key twice. A lot of stuff came up there and I know it can look a bit confusing, but in a second I'll show you what's going on here. So here at var, that's because it needs to know which variable type we want. And we're using string, so we'll put string here. Then here where it says item, that's the name of our variable, so you can type whatever you want. Let's just call this one name, because we're trying to print out a name. And as you can see, it says in collection. Well, our array is a type of collection, so it needs to know which collection we're trying to access. That's why we're putting in names here. So inside the loop, we'll put console.writeLine and the name just like this. So we'll delete this line, we don't need this one anymore. So the way the loop works is for each name, so we have 3 names, it will print out the name. So it'll go, okay, for each, I need to go in this collection, names, and find type string. Okay, this is the first one, Alice. Well, then I'll print out Alice. Then it goes back up here, because there's more names on the list. Then I'll print out John, then Bob, and so on. If you have more entries, whatever, it will print out those as well. And then when it's finished doing all this, for each time there's an entry in the database, in our case, the array. Then it will continue out here and then continue whatever code you have here. So let's try and run this. As you can see, it says Alice, John, and Bob. So now, in very few lines, we've actually made it print out 3 things instead of saying console write line Alice, console write line John, Bob, so on. So like this, it's much more readable than seeing 500 console.write lines with a specific name in each. So to end off this video, I would like to give you a challenge. I would like you to create a string array of your favorite movies. You can pause the video now and try it yourself, and then I will continue on showing you how I did it. So let's delete this for now. So we wanted to create a string array of our favorite movies. So let's type string followed by the square brackets. And now we're listing movies instead of names, so we'll call this one movies. And this will be equal to curly brackets with our entries inside. Now let's write some really good movies here. Of course, all separated by a comma between the sets of quotation marks. And finish it off with semicolon like this. So now we can use the for each loop to loop through the array and print out whichever movie names we give it. So for each, and you can also type the syntax yourself, but it can be hard to remember at the beginning, so just press the tab key twice. Then we need the type here. So string, let's call this one movie. Again, you can call this whatever you want, but it makes more sense to type movie. So for each movie in the list of movies, we want the console to write out the current movie it's looping through. So console.writeLine movie, start the program. As you can see, the list of movies came up. I hope you completed the challenge. If you did, then well done. In my next video, we'll talk about loops. If this video helped you out, don't forget to click the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video.